Hello and welcome to a fresh episode of Research Plus Practice. Now it's been 3 months that Shashwat and I came up with a video. Thanks to your messages and polite inquiries, both of us are doing well. We were just plain lazy. So I have worked in sales and I understand the importance of quarter ending and year ending targets. So what I have done here is I have clubbed 5 interesting lessons from 5 things that might have happened in 2021 and I've tried to marry it with research insights. So in one video, Shashwat and I are going to pack 5 insights to make up for our absence over last 3 months. So here is our special New Year edition. Lesson number 1. This year, we witnessed a very important event, withdrawal of US from Afghanistan soils. Now, a lot has been written, discussed and deliberated whether US really achieved its strategic objective or not. The very fact that we are discussing suggests that it's a gray area. We might have got something, we might not have got something from being in Afghanistan. Now this question came to me from Nisha, a colleague of mine, and she said, from strategy research perspective, how do you look at the strategy followed by US when they entered and stayed back in Afghanistan? Now, because we don't have all the details, let me share with you a very interesting strategy research insight that may throw some light as to what could US team have done in Afghanistan. Now, in strategy research, we have a very interesting view on how organizations and firms can compete, thrive and perform in competitive market, which is the resource-based view. Now, Shashwat and I have covered this in our research and practice video series 1, 2 and 3. Primarily what we say in resource-based view is that your performance is dependent on the kind of strategic resources that you hold. So if you hold very good resources, there is a good chance that your performance or your outcomes will be good. Now, in this year, early this year in January, a very interesting paper came out on resource-based view and community as a resource. So Gibson, they came out with a paper in one of the leading journals for business management, and they argued how community, that is the space in which you operate, can be a source of competitive advantage. So if you impinge this theory on what US was doing, perhaps US was not able to gain the legitimacy, the approval of the community in which they were working in Afghanistan, and that is why some of the results that we find today are amiss. In fact, if you read the famous treatise of Machiavelli, and Machiavelli writes in The Prince that whenever you enter a foreign land, the approval of the natives is critical to your success and stability in that place. Machiavelli wrote it hundreds of years back. We have a research which talks about a more specific thing just a year back, and both the things are pointing out to one very critical part, which is community as a strategy resource. Now, if your business is can also be embedded richly in community. Lesson number 2, cricket. So lesson number 2, cricket. So from geopolitics to cricket. Now, earlier this year, the Indian cricket team won a famous test match at the Gabba, and that resulted in them winning the test series consecutively at Australia. Now, people have been suggesting, is this the best team ever from India? Not getting in that debate, there have been so many great players who have worn the Indian jersey and performed remarkably well. But this was a team which won twice in Australia. And in fact, this team, which won in Gabba, was even short of some of the regular players that play in Test cricket for India. So how did this turnaround come about? Now, actually, if you hear the team and if you heard some of the interviews given by the standing captain Ajinkya Rahane, or even the earlier interviews given by Virat Kohli and Ravi Shastri, yes, you can talk about spirit, you can talk about the performance, or to give in all that you have. One very interesting thing that they touched upon in between the lines was their focus on fitness. In fact, both Virat Kohli and Rahane in one or the other interview spoke about that how they have a very, very strict focus on their diet, that they will not eat carbs or a very limited amount of carb or fat, and the focus on fitness is perhaps something that they really have worked on. Now please note, why am I stressing on this very singular fact of fitness? And that is because in Test match cricket, after ages, and if you follow cricket like I do, you have a team where you have bowlers who can bowl at the same intensity 90 overs a day, 5 days of a Test match. So the focus of the team, the fitness, what it has done is that the same people, the same players who were perhaps performing at one high level and then dropping, they can sustain their energy levels, or they can sustain their performance over a longer duration. Now, you can talk of the spirit, you can talk about the leadership, but if you look at the core, objective, and if I can borrow a very interesting research insight brought by Kathleen Eisenhardt, which talks about simple rule. So in this case, if you were to look at performance of Indian teams over past, maybe you could have come up to this assessment, maybe someone did, that hey, we have very good players, it is just that we are not able to perform regularly across each session of the 5 days of a Test match, and so we lose. So what do we need to do? We need to ensure that our performance levels remain high for the 5 days of a Test match. And how do you achieve that? By working on your fitness. So congratulations Virat Kohli, congratulations Team India. In as many words as you could have told, you said and you shared that perhaps one of the things that differentiates this team from the others is their superior fitness levels. So for business leaders, please find out what is the core that you need to work on. Lesson number 3, collaborations. Now this year, and in fact continuing over from last year, we saw pharmaceutical industry coming up with important drugs and vaccines to fight against COVID. In fact, many of these drugs, or most of these drugs, have been developed through collaborative arrangements and agreements across different companies in the pharmaceutical ecosystem. Someone is developing a molecule, maybe another team did more research, made it more potent, someone did genome sequencing, someone is only working on manufacturing. So, and this perhaps is very well defined in pharmaceutical industry as well. But please note, this whole idea of openness or open innovation, as Chesbrough coined the term in 2003, this argues that when you open out, there's a better chance of you receiving right ideas and right suggestions, good ideas for you to work upon, so your final outcome can be better. So there's a good chance that if you're trying to innovate, you'll get the results. Now, that is what open innovation tells you. I'm going a step further and sharing with you an interesting insight. Did you notice that most of these drugs and vaccines that we are seeing today are coming from the same old large traditional pharmaceutical firms? So you have a Pfizer drug, you might have a drug from Merck, different companies, but these are all established players. Now, my research was on open innovation. In fact, I've shared a link in the description of this video which talks about the importance of investing in yourself to make the most of open innovation. So, what do I mean to say? What do I mean when I say that? So, there is a very interesting term in management research which goes by the word absorptive capacity. So, what we argue in management research is, yes, it is good to get ideas from outside. It is good to get feedback from outside, but do you have a prepared mind to take those ideas and work upon it? How do you do that? So the reason we find some of the larger firms doing exceptionally well through open innovation models, through collaboration, is because they have internally very strong teams. So for them, research is not outsourcing. So there's a difference between collaboration and outsourcing. So Pfizer, Merck, the results that they are seeing today is because internally as well, they have very strong teams. And when someone gives them an idea or a suggestion or a feedback, that team can also put its mind on it. So please note, collaboration was an important theme that came up in 2021. And if you found merit in collaboration, please note, collaboration doesn't mean that you don't do anything and let the others do. No, it means that while others are working on it, you prepare your code so that when the idea and the feedback comes back to you, you can run with it. So please make a distinction between outsourcing and collaboration, and 2021 was about collaboration for success. Lesson number 4, working with evolving market trends. Now, friends, I'm pretty sure that in last year or so, or year, 2 years, you would have definitely tried products online, maybe from some of the newer brands. Let me give you an example. Brands like Mamaearth, Sugar Cosmetics, Vadham Tea, or even Boyo, which is into the snacking segment. Now, even if you haven't, go online on Amazon or Flipkart and you'll find and type these names, and you'll find many new brands that have entered in these categories. These are brands which have started direct to consumer, or what we call D2C brands. Now, if you look at the market, one interesting thing is a by and large absence of large traditional players in these categories. So in the very categories that these brands have come up, there are old traditional players who are selling through the offline channels, or who are otherwise listing their products on some of the platforms, but they have maybe having large portfolios, but traditionally they have remained there. But some of these brands have just galloped past them, and they have built a big name for themselves in these markets. Now, an interesting thing for us to learn here is market trends. Now, people know that digitization or consumption of digital media was always on a rise, but in last year or so, this has grown exponentially. And some of these brands, which nimble-footed brands, young entrepreneurial brands, which did not have the backlog or the heavy weights of a traditional offline brand, they were able to latch onto it much faster than some of the regular old brands. Now, for lesson for us, especially if you are an incumbent, if you are a strategist for an old traditional brand, is to realize that your core competencies can become core rigidities, right? So the very capability that got you till this point can become your rigidity as you try to change. So what is the lesson? The first basic, there are two things that you should be looking out. One, look out for the evolving market trends. I mean, your company will have to change, your brands have to change, the trends will not change. So be very objective in trying to figure out the trends of the market. And second, of course, is the timing, whether it is slow, fast, or exponential as we saw last year for digitization. Please note, both these factors will have a huge impact on the success of your business. So the final lesson number 5, Now, I came across this very interesting tweet by founder of Ola, Bhavesh Agrawal, and he wrote a very cheeky tweet that the hiring talent in Bangalore is so expensive that we should move to a less expensive place, maybe San Francisco. And a very cheeky tweet, but that got me thinking. Yes, especially in the IT industry, we are seeing a strong wave of high compensation and remuneration. I'm not arguing for against it, but got me thinking, how much importance does talent have on business performance? Now, I give you two very counterintuitive examples. One, of course, is the movie Moneyball. There's a book as well, but I thought maybe you might have watched Brad Pitt's movie Moneyball, which talks about a coach and a hiring manager who go around hiring people who may not be necessarily the most talented, but the most effective people. So they build a team of individuals who are able to outperform the most talented or on papers more costlier people in the team. So they follow a process only of getting the right people, not necessarily the most talented or the most costliest resource. In fact, if I were to do it from the research side, Noshir Contractor, he does a lot of work in social connections and network theory, and he along with a few other researchers came up with a paper some time back, in team sports chemistry matters. And what did they argue? They found out that if you make a team of people, say 6 people working on a setup, or 6 people working in a sports team, if you get the best 6 people, say if you are playing basketball, get the best person who can defend, get the best person who can dunk, or get the best person who can pass, it's not necessarily that you will win the championship. So they found out that getting the costliest, the best person in each of the skill set does not guarantee success. Essentially arguing that at times, some of the times, getting individuals or creating a system where these talent can work and thrive is also important. So the lesson that I want to leave all of you business leaders out there is that as you get talent, make sure you also work on your systems and process so that they can thrive in that. System and process, if not more important, are equally important than as hiring individuals. So here we are with 5 business lessons from 2021. Shashwat and I would like to wish you a very warm and prosperous new year, and we hope that our absence for 3 months is made up through the release of these 5 lessons today. Once again, wish you a very happy new year. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.